Welcome, everyone. Looks like we have familiar faces. As you know, this is Healing Light, a kind of casual, comfortable group of Christian Scientists and interested parties who are discussing poignant topics. And Scott will be reading today and leading us. So we look forward to our discussion about depression and how to handle those beliefs. Take it away, Scott.
Thank you, Bonnie. Well, it's funny. I started working on this before I even saw the lesson for this week, and then I saw that the soul was in there, and it just made it even more perfect. Saul and others in the Bible suffer from deep despair. And of course, in the story of Saul, it's said to be the result of an evil spirit. And in a poem attributed to him in the book of Isaiah, King Hezekiah refers to his agony as the bitterness of my soul. So clearly, this mental condition is not new. People have been dealing with it for a long time. The good news is the Bible and the writings of Mary Baker Eddy give us tools to address this. So I'll read a few passages and then we can address some questions and have a little discussion. I'll start in 1 Kings. This is from the New Living Translation. When Ahab got home, he told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah: "May the gods strike me and even kill me by this time tomorrow, if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you, just as you killed them." Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Oh, hold on. Just wait. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. I muted you. Hold on just a sec. Okay. Oh. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Here, I'm good. I'm unmuted now.
Okay. Sorry. Go back 5 seconds.
All right. Let's see, where were we? Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. "I've had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died." Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, "Get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. This is from Matthew in the Message. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. And from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy, definition of mind: the only I or us, the only spirit, soul, divine principle, substance, life, truth, love. The one God, not that which is in man, but the divine principle or God of whom man is the full and perfect expression. Deity which outlines, but is not outlined. And I love this from Miscellaneous Writings by Mary Baker Eddy. The literal rendering of the scriptures makes them nothing valuable, but often is the foundation of unbelief and hopelessness. The metaphysical rendering is health and peace and hope for all. So, questions at this point. And feel free to discuss off question too, but I had these questions. What is the opposite of depression? And what is a spiritual approach to depression? And what angel messages does God send to keep us mentally healthy?
Oh, maybe I'll unmute.
Yeah, I'd like, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yes.
I'd like to address the last question as to what it is that perpetuates the opposite of depression. And your reading from the Bible is what I see happening in my life, is that when things seem to be overwhelming, I guess is a way of talking about it, is that the uplifting comes from waking up and finding the bread sitting on the stone, and you see it, and it's like, holy cow, look at that. and it's just a reconfirmation that this long and winding road that we travel on, we don't know what's around the next bend. But if we work from the standpoint of principle, that life, truth, and love are going to be right there, is that the evidence and the peace which passes all understanding, I think, is sourced from spirit and soul. So hopefully that answers the last question.
I like that. Yeah, we've talked about it before, about being attentive to what doors are opening, what spirit is supplying for us. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Or I've got a couple more passages I could read.
Well, I'll just say, I think the opposite of depression, well, I guess the opposite would be sort of an elation, but we want to come to a middle where we're constantly at peace. We don't want the highs and the lows. We want a steady state of joy and peace that's calm. That's how I feel, is what I would counter depression with, as a belief, just that we can be calm and peaceful and joyful. Yeah.
Yes. No, I think joy, that rings true to me too.
Mhm.
That idea of joy.
And I muted everybody. I didn't really mean to, and now I can't unmute you all, so you have to unmute yourself. So if you notice you are muted, just unmute yourself.
Okay. Well, let me continue and we will have more questions, more discussion. So at this point, God was not done with Elijah. He apparently needed a little more convincing, even though he'd already been fed by both angels and ravens. So, go out and stand before me on the mountain, the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And back to science and health. The effects of Christian Science are not so much seen as felt. It is the still small voice of truth uttering itself. We are either turning away from this utterance, or we are listening to it and going up higher. Willingness to become as a little child and leave the old for the new renders thought receptive of the advanced idea. Gladness to leave the false landmarks and joy to see them disappear. This disposition helps to precipitate the ultimate harmony. And from Miscellany, Mrs. Eddy, when error strives to be heard above truth, let the still small voice produce God's phenomena. And finally, this one from The People's Idea of God. A truth-filled mind makes a pure Christianity and a healthy mind and body. So more possible questions for you. How can we silence the noise to hear what God is saying to us? Or how do we know what parts of our old sense of identity we should let go of? And what can we do to keep ourselves mentally stable?
So I've thought about this one when I got the email about what the subject was going to be. And to quiet the noise is that you have to go into the wilderness. And there's enough, even with your readings about Elijah from First Kings, the fasting of Jesus, there's countless stories of prayer and supplication in the Bible writings. And Mrs. Eddy pointed out that it's very important to study the Holy Scriptures. Is that if you go out into the wilderness, literally go out into the wilderness, no radios, no cars, no toys, and be quiet. What I've found is that after a period of about 10 days, you think 7 days, which is usually what people can do because they get a week off from work. But what I found is if you go 10 days, regardless of whether you're fasting from food and just, drinking water, or your supplications or meditation or whatever your gig is in the wilderness, is you have to go to the wilderness to find how to turn off the noise. And it's a wonderful experience because it's complete silence. And it's an overwhelming kind of joy that comes from, I'm trying to use words here that don't take away from Christian Science. It comes from an understanding of the eternal nature of being. And anybody that has never done this before, I think that it would behoove them to read the Bible and realize that the holy people that are characterized in the scriptures have this experience. So, you know, whether it was David running away from Saul, or you know, the walls of Jericho coming down, they're all stories about being outside of the realm of noise, to meet God and find that that calm. I like the way Bonnie used the word calm, because I picture Methuselah being a very calm and slow to anger, and a deep understanding of God in his approach to his very long life. And that's all I have to say. But I had to say that because I have done that wilderness thing, and it works.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I know when I was going through a very rough time, I lived about a 5-minute walk from a big stretch of woodland. And if I walked in the woods, I found that same peace and calm. Usually there was nobody there. And of course, I couldn't do it for 10 days. Maybe an hour or two, but I always could find that peace there, and I came back feeling much more joyous and inspired, and mostly having a good conversation with God. In general, I think seems to be really hard to get people out of a depression. Some people talk themselves into depression so much that it's like a spiral going down instead of up. And for me, if I'm praying for them, I just I'm finding that the more we claim our spirituality and theirs, and know that there's only one mind, we can encourage them to be grateful for little things, because I think gratitude is also very important. Most people who are depressed are not grateful, and just helping them to be grateful for little things, it doesn't matter how small they are, helps to lift them up, put them on the right track. I know if I feel down, which doesn't happen too often now, but it used to, writing a gratitude list or sitting down and listening to some music, hymns or classical music for me, lifts me up too. They're all things that help with healing.
Thank you for that. That was very helpful.
One thing that comes to mind too, based on what Joy said, was, to me, to be depressed, you have to be inwardly focused on yourself. And
Yeah,
a lot of times another way to work to counteract that would be to focus on others, or focus on what you can do to help, or how you can contribute. Just anything that takes that focus out of an inward focus into an outward focus.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I've noticed that with a lot of people who seem to be not necessarily mentally in a depression, but people who have handicaps. Very often they're terribly self-centered, and they feel sorry for themselves.
I think that gratitude is definitely a key. I mean, that's one that I always turn to as well.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, everything seems to be going wrong this week, and wait, is it though? And there usually are good things.
Well, even if
And
it's only that we have a bed to sleep in, it's a start.
yeah. And then the idea of others, I love that too, because part of the idea of depression is disconnection from God, right? Disconnection from God's goodness and supply.
Right.
And so if we start thinking about others and our connectedness to others and our connectedness to the rest of God's creation, then that can get away from that feeling of isolation, which is a different feeling from the feeling of isolation you get in the wilderness. So, and I'm grateful. I love the idea of the wilderness thing. It's been a long time since I've been out for more than a day or two in the wilderness, in the quiet, without any, connections or whatnot. But I'm also grateful that that's not the only way that we can grow closer to God. That, a lot of people live in cities and maybe don't have the means to, or a place to go out in the wilderness. So you can find a garden, a bench on the waterfront. There are definitely ways of finding a quiet place to commune and be grateful. Though
When I
I'm
lived,
not discounting.
oh, sorry, didn't want to
I'm not.
interrupt you.
No,
Thought you were finished.
I'm just not. I'm not discounting the 10 days in the wilderness either. That sounds really delightful to me.
Well, it is, because the simplest things, like a drink of water when you're thirsty, or a dry pair of socks when you're cold, are beyond what a lot of people who, like Joy was saying, go in this downward spiral of ingratitude. Is that when you put in contrast all the creature comforts that we have with not having them, it puts it in focus. And I think people that go down this negative ingratitude spiral towards depression, which is a serious mental illness, have no foundational experiences to draw on to understand what gratitude really is. You have to understand that the walls of water come crashing down on you, and they're pretty mighty when they do that, in order to be able to walk through the Red Sea and see the walls of water standing there by the majesty of God's might for you. And that's no exaggeration. That is pure gratitude for what God has in store for those that love him and her, and no others. So I really like what you said, Joy. That's right on. And yeah, you can take a 5-minute walk and turn off the noise if you're that good at it.
No, well, that was a 5-minute walk to get to the woodland and spend an hour or so there. But anyway, I always found that it helped. And I was going to respond to something that Scott said too. Now I've forgotten it.
Sitting on a bench next to the river in the city.
Oh, I know what, thank you. I know what I was going to say. When I lived in New York, which is a bustling city, I did some drama classes, and one of the exercises we were asked to do was to go out into the countryside and sit for half an hour on our own without any music or anything to read or anything, just sit and observe what we saw. And then when we went home, we were to write about the experience. And at the next drama class, we were supposed to mime it. But the point of it is that even in Central Park, you can find absolute stillness and quietness, because that's where I went. And it really, it's amazing how just sitting there and observing what's around you fills you up with gratitude.
I can't really relate personally to depression. I haven't suffered from it, and I do respect that people do. And so I don't want to pretend that my once in a while bad day is anything like depression, but I have someone close to me who goes through seeming cycles of depression, and it's hard to know exactly how to, or what right words to say to help, because it's like you just want to say, let's be grateful for something, but when they're really in a dark place, it's hard. And so I know that I just have to do my work when it happens, because there's nothing I can do really, and that's all I can do is to correct my own thought about it. But speaking of a wilderness experience, I have to go there in my thought a lot. I seem to have a busy, Scott, you said you don't like that word a few weeks ago, but active mortal mind that is, often talking to me, and it's not depressive thoughts or depressed thoughts. It's just busy thoughts, like a lot of noise, a lot of thoughts, what I have to do, things I haven't done, things I said, embarrassing moments. And it seems to be like I'm going through all the channels on a TV at once. It's just like click, 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 And so I have to go to that wilderness place, without going to a wilderness place. I have to go to that still small voice, that quiet, calm. Sometimes it's just like almost a meditative state of saying, shh, for a minute, you say, shush, mortal mind, and then just listen to the nothingness for a moment, the quiet and the calm and the nothing, like no sound, and then try to fill that sound or that nothingness with God's thoughts and know what's really true. Maybe it's gratitude. Maybe it's just saying the word God. Sometimes I just say, God, I know that you're here. I can't focus yet, but I know that I will, and just start to fill in the quiet with the right thoughts about myself. But anyway, sometimes that happens in the night. If I wake up and I can't stop my thoughts from just racing, I'll just go to that place where you're quiet, whether it's lying in bed or sitting on a bench in New York City or out in the actual wilderness. You can find that same calm, which is, I'm very grateful for that, because if I feel like if I didn't have that tool, I guess I would just think I have an overactive mind, and, or my brain's on fire or something like really negative, and just attach that label to myself. But because I can go to that place and calm myself and then focus on God, I'm eternally grateful for that, man. I mean, that's just such a amazing place that we can go, and it's something I'm really grateful for.
Well, I'm really grateful that I have Christian Science, because it certainly has helped me out of suicidal thoughts when I felt that I wasn't worth anything. And it
Joy.
was
Oh, sorry.
it was the fact that if I did it and somebody found out that I was a Christian Scientist, it would reflect badly on Christian Science.
Hmm.
So it was my love of God and Christian Science that helped me.
That's great.
Yay.
Yeah. And Joy, when you're in that place, like I'm sometimes with someone who's feeling that way, is it best to not say anything and just keep praying, or is there anything that brought you comfort that anyone ever said to you that you could think of?
Well, on one occasion, I was actually applying for membership in a branch church. It was my first application when I was quite young, and I was on the way there, and those thoughts of driving the car into a tree was so strong. And then that answer came about how badly it would reflect on Christian Science. And I was going to my interview for church membership. And when I got there, a member of the board, I told them what had happened. And I said, I wouldn't be any help to you, so I think I better not join. The board was meeting upstairs, and they left me sitting downstairs and gave me something to read. I'm sure they prayed. And then one of the other board members came down and said, it doesn't matter if you don't have anything to give, because we can give to you. And they accepted me into membership. And it was their love that helped me.
Thank you for sharing that, Joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I really ever had that bad a bout of depression ever again.
I mean, it seems to me that one of the challenging things, it's not unlike knowing when and how to help somebody with healing, but I think depression is probably even more challenging one, about knowing what to do, what to say. And of course, we can rely on God for that. And we should be getting the right message of, okay, maybe I just need to sit with this person and be quiet. They just need to have somebody next to them. Maybe I'll talk to them about something. I mean, that's wonderful how the board of that church handled it for you and really reached out and embraced you. But like with any healing, we have to be alert to the opportunities and the tools we have that can help somebody or ourselves.
Well, I have a friend at the moment that I'm helping, and I just check in most days, either with a little text message, a bit of encouragement, or I read the Bible lesson with them. And even if they say it's just words going over their head, I know that truth, some of that truth, something from it must have an effect. And we never know when we're praying to help someone, we never know where our messages go. When I was first reader, I did a lesson on purity once, and I got a phone call which wasn't very nice. It was kind of objectionable from a stranger. And normally I would just have put the phone down. But in this case, I was just led, having just read through the whole lesson that I'd prepared, I was led to say the right things. And the person said, well, I asked the person if they believed in God. And they said, of course I do, otherwise I wouldn't feel bad. And so I said, well, God loves you and he gives you everything you need. And they said, can I think about that? And that was the last letter or conversation or anything I had in that direction about kind of nasty suggestions from anyone. I've never had to deal with that again. So, you know, and this person was in a city miles away and I had no idea who they were. So it was, they must have been touched by the healing messages that I'd been working with. I don't have any other explanation for it. Why would a total stranger call me out of the blue just when I'd done a lesson on purity? And I've seen that too. When I did another reading, there was a member of our church, a young member who was in a relationship with a young man who had a nervous breakdown. And the theme of my readings was overcoming fear in mental sickness. And she was uplifted by it, so was her mother. And that was early in the year, like in February. And in September, when I was talking to my dad, I mentioned that I'd done this because he told me that he'd called a member of our family who was mentally depressed. And he made a note of every conversation and every telephone call he did. I think he just, it turned out that it was on the day after I had done those readings, that he called this person, and the members of staff who were looking after her asked if she'd like to speak to her, asked him if he'd, and he was totally taken aback because this person hadn't been communicating at all. And that was the beginning of a really nice phase of progress. Huge progress went on. And that was even in a different country. So it just shows that I hadn't thought of them when I was doing the readings, but it was the very next day after those readings. And I was fortunate enough to get to hear the fruitage 6 months later or whatever.
Yeah, we don't always get immediate feedback.
Well, sometimes we don't get
Mhm.
any at all, but you know, those times when we get feedback show that the truth is what's at work.
So in that passage about the still small voice, this is that he talks about willingness to become as a little child and leave the old for the new. And that renders thought receptive of the advanced idea. So how do we know what part of our old sense of identity we should let go?
Well, I don't want to be the only one who's talking here, but when I heard that question, I was thinking, we don't have to know what to let go. Because if we're holding on to the truth of our perfection as a reflection of God, it lets us go. It drops away. The more we see our spiritual perfection, I mean, I've been witnessing that happening more and more. Just understanding more and more of my spiritual perfection and learning to identify myself more and more with that spiritual image and likeness of God. It's so important how we identify ourselves, because we're not trying to make a mortal into an immortal, or or a material body into a spiritual body. We're trying to see what's already there, and that's the truth of our spiritual being, which is whole and complete and balanced and perfect in every way. And then the other stuff isn't a part of us anymore. It drops away. Mary Baker Eddy encouraged her students not to dig around in the past to overcome things, but to see that spiritual man. I mean, I think that's how she did the healing. That's how Jesus did it. She said Jesus beheld in science the perfect man who appeared to him where sinning mortal man appears to mortals. And when I've been reading the textbook, if I'm identifying myself, which I did for a long time, as a mortal, and then suddenly one day it struck me, why am I identifying myself as a mortal? I'm immortal. That's always been the truth about me, since before the world was. I can't be any other way. Okay, I've said enough now.
Well, in light of the subject tonight, I think it's very simple to identify with the positive and let the positive be a part of your character. For example, and this is something that I've noticed in many years of living, is that something might happen at the beginning of the day that was really negative. And, it's uncomfortable. It's, man, why? And then something just really fantastic happened at the end of the day, or in the middle of the day, or as the day wore on. And it's like, wow, the day didn't start this way, but look at it now. And so after having many, many experiences like this, it's like when something bad happens at the beginning of the day, it's like, hot dog, something really good is going to happen today. It's been a long time since I had a day that's something great's going to happen. And I think it goes along with and that positiveness, no matter what happens, you got to be positive and expect miracles. Is that with Elijah, just about ready to give up? This is enough is enough. That's when the miracles started to happen, and I think that's it's probably characteristic of a holy man or a sage or a prophet. That's what the biblical subject of these characters, these stories, this history that we draw upon. So that's especially because of that the difference between being so caught up in the negative that you can't see the light of day, and then embracing the light and making the light part of every action of every day, of every conscious motivation and intention. There's no room for the negative to be there. Even if it looks like it's negative, you know that it's just an illusion, because something really good and positive and miraculous is just about to happen. And then after all of these good and positive things happen, is it, how can you be so faithless to think that it's not going to happen again? And then it happens again. And then, I don't know, I could go on, but yeah, that's my way of expressing it, given the subject tonight.
That's great. That boundless optimism and expectation of good. Yeah. If we all lived like that, I think the world would be much improved.
That's one of the definitions of hope, expectation of good.
Well, Joy was saying we're not trying to become immortal. We're not mortals that are trying to get better or something, but we're constantly faced with the belief that we're mortal every day, every moment. And it used to be hard for me to grapple with the idea of being immortal while I'm also mortal, like there were two of me. And I've really come to realize there's only one of me, and the material sense is the illusion. My life is eternal and is not bound to this form. But basically it says trials are proofs of God's care. We have to work to see the good. And I'm almost grateful when I'm in the midst of an issue that I'm praying about, because it really forces me to pray a lot and really focused. And I feel like, I mean, we should pray every day, all the time, about everything, always basically living in prayer. My Christian Science teacher said, with the, to the question, how often do I pray? How often am I breathing? We should always be living our, living prayers. But it's like what you were just saying. I'm sorry, it says iPhone. What's your name? iPhone?
Joy.
No, Joy, I see.
I'll get it fixed one of these days. It should say David.
David. Okay, thank you. Just those moments of turning to God it can be all the time, every day, every moment, really. And if we just look to that as a joyful thing, it can be easy to feel down all the time. I mean, my house is messy. This is wrong. I'm too busy. Blah, blah, blah. But if I can just take every moment and turn to God and take it as a opportunity to express and to change my thought. I mean, it can really be a living example every day that God is at work and God is who's in charge. And so I'm, almost grateful for all the opportunities we have to pray. I'm not saying it's always easy and, but we just keep going, keep doing it all the time. And I'm grateful to be here with you all and really grateful for what you've shared.
Yeah, as long as we seem to be in a material world, we have plenty to pray about.
Yeah.
That's that is the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Earth's
Probably after we
preparatory
ascend,
school,
probably after
right?
we ascend, we still probably have things to pray about, but
Yeah.
we'll get there when we get there.
I remember a practitioner saying once, actually became a teacher, but he said once he didn't know if he wanted to be in a perfect world because then he'd have nothing to work about. And he thought it might be boring.
Right.
He was just kidding. Because there's always plenty to know, isn't there? I mean, I'm sure God's not bored.
No, I think there's, even if we're not dealing with material, whatever, there's still endless ways that, God is unfolding new ideas. And that's part of our work, is to see and express and support those ideas. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think, but heaven is boring or, no.
Well, I used to,
I don't see it.
I mean, I can remember times when I thought, I don't want to live forever. But I realized as I grew in my understanding of Christian Science that the thought that I don't want to live forever was the idea of going from a material basis. I don't want to be mortal forever. Now I'm very happy with the idea of immortality and everlasting life.
Mm-hmm.
But not just living for a lot of years, right?
Right.
Yes, exactly. No, I think it's really interesting that in that list of all the ancestors and how old they are, and of course Methuselah was one of the eldest, 900 and I don't know how many years plus. Do you know who one of the youngest was? 365 years old. That was Enoch, and he ascended. So it definitely has nothing to do with years, how long you live. That struck me one time. I thought it was really interesting. All his ancestors and his children lived longer than he did. But he walked with God, and so he was ready to leave the material dream.
It must be nighttime where Rachel is.
I don't know where she is.
It's very dark. Well, I wanted to sort of wrap things up, although we can keep talking a little if we want to, with what I thought was just a perfect summary from Psalms 42. Why am I discouraged? Why is my heart so sad? I will put my hope in God. I will praise him again, my Savior and my God. And that kind of wraps up what we were saying about hope and joy being the opposite of depression.
And gratitude. Because when we
And
praise
gratitude.
God, we're grateful for him.
Well, and it's like recognizing the good that's already happened.
Right.
That's why I love the points of progress in the monitor, and the monitor in general. I'm a big fan, but the points of progress in particular, because what you hear about things maybe you would not hear about, little things like an island in the South Pacific that's banned plastic or something little that, you know, it just wouldn't cross your normal news feed. But it gives me hope. And when we have hope, we keep working, we keep praying, we keep doing good, being good, because we know that there's more to come. And so recognizing it and talking about it, thinking about it, pondering it, all the good. But hope is really important, actually, that we have hope, and we can, you know, multiply hope by recognizing the good that's already happening. So I think, okay, if this good has happened, then there must be more to come, and I can hope on that and rely on that. So really pondering the good, that's an important, I bet that's a number one defense really to depression. If you can get to that place where you can just ponder the good, whether it's gratitude, every breath you take, the pillow under your head, just anything. I mean, again, I haven't been there, but I know it's easy to say, but I think, like Joel said, it's getting out of a self place and putting self aside, self-immolation. But hope is important.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? We have hit the hour mark here. And if not, then I will bid you a good week. And do remember that we have a Facebook group and a website with information if you want to share this with other people. And we'll post a link to the recording of this so people who weren't able to attend can hear it. And I guess that's about it. So thank you all for attending.
Yes,
and
thank
for your
you.
great ideas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joy, you're muted.
David got his name changed.
I did it. If you don't know how, David, just ask the host. It's an easy fix on our side. So, but otherwise you go to participants and then you see yourself and then you just click more, rename. But I can do it for you.
Okay, so I'm unmuted now. I wished everybody a happy week.
Thank you.
You too, Joy.
Thanks, Joy.
Bye.
Thank
Nice to
you.
see you all.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, good night.